I'm here at one of the largest military structures ever built in human history. This is the fortress system that's circling around Warsaw, the Polish capital, and it consists of two main central fortresses. One of them is the Warsaw Fortress and the other one is the Modlin Fortress. An entry point is just behind me. This is the cemetery of the Modlin Fortress, and it really gives you a glimpse of the bloodiness of Polish history. I mean, the competition is very fierce when it comes to the bloodiest history of Eastern Europe. The Russians, the Romanians, the Serbs, the Hungarians, every nation had its own devastating period, especially in the 19th and 20th centuries in this part of the continent. But even in that context, the Polish history stands out because of its bloodiness and just, devastating effects on the country and the peoples who lived in these lands. And one of the reasons why Poland's history is so bloody because the country is just in the wrong spot. It's between two large expanding empires, the Russians and the Prussians, the Russians and the Germans, and so Poland had to face both. Had to face the threats on both sides. The country has been partitioned 3 times between the Austrians, the Prussians and the Russians, and in the 20th century it was basically leveled by the Second World War. I mean, if there is a country that suffered a lot, then it was probably Poland, and in this fortress you can get a glimpse of that, because the Modlin Fortress, this is just one structure, just one, very kind of compact fortress in a way. You can walk in, just walk about, but this is a part of a huge, gigantic system that is circling around Warsaw and spans north of Warsaw to Modlin. It's about an hour from Warsaw to the north, and I mean, you can spend here like a year, I don't know, really a lot of time just to enjoy yourself, and visiting these pieces of military history. Seeing simply just the sheer size of these buildings, it really gives you the glimpse of what kind of military presence the Russian Empire held here in the heart of Poland. And don't be mistaken, this was not just because of the threat of foreign occupation. This was also to repress the Poles, especially to repress Polish intellectuals. Those who were promoting the use of Polish language and those who were for the promotion of Polish literature and the Polish perspective to history and history writing, they were hunted down and they were oppressed. And many of them escaped to Galicia, to Austrian-occupied Galicia, and you can imagine if they escaped to the repressed Habsburg part of Poland, then how much repressed and how much threatened they were in the Russian part, to be taken to prisons, to be taken to prison camps in Siberia.
The Swedish army considered building a fortress in the 17th century in their strategic location, but it was the Russians who got very close to it after the partition of Poland. Eventually, it was Napoleon Bonaparte who ordered the erection of a fortress in 1806. It took the Russian army a year to conquer the fortress built by the French. After that, the fortress was enlarged in the 1830s, and it occupied a central position in the repression mechanisms of the Russian Empire within the Polish lands. And Modlin fortress was given a new name, Nowogeorgievsk. It was the end of the 19th century when the Modlin fortress was extended and became a part of an entire ring that would surround Warsaw and lands north of Warsaw. Despite the massive fortification efforts of the Russian army in the late 19th century, the German army occupied the fortress system in 1915. During the Second World War, the fortress system again occupied a very important place in the defensification efforts of the Polish army. However, it was occupied by the German forces quite quickly in 1939. During the campaign against Poland, there were 15,000 soldiers who defended themselves in the Modlin fortress, and they lasted one day longer than the Polish capital itself. The Modlin fortress capitulated on the 29th of September at 8 a.m. After the German occupation of Poland, the fortress served as training ground for the Wehrmacht forces, but it also served as a transition station for people who were transported to concentration camps.
The barracks are one of the most spectacular parts of this fortress. It is also one of the longest, if not the longest, military barracks in the whole world. Definitely in Europe. It's about 2 kilometers long. It's insanely long. I cannot even fit it into one shot. It starts over here. It continues all the way behind my back. There is a beautiful tower here, by the way. Look at that. It's pretty amazing. It continues all the way till the band. That band is not the end of the building, it's just a band. It continues around the band. It keeps on going for 2 kilometers. It is insane. It hosted about 20,000 Russian soldiers. 20,000 in one building. And the walls are insanely thick. We cannot really see it from the outside, but they are almost 2 meters wide. They are super thick walls that were also not just separating the soldiers from each other's farts, but to protect the building itself.
This cannon outpost was built in 1839. It is a semicircular artillery tower, and it was equipped with 52 artillery axes. This is the Red Tower. It is situated on the southern part of the barracks, and it was built between 1832 and 1841, when the entire fortress was enlarged by the Russian army. The Red Tower was also named as the Tatar Tower, because it was occupied by Muslim soldiers of the Russian military forces. The reasons behind segregating the soldiers was that the Russian army was very concerned about possible ethnic conflicts, and this is why soldiers from Muslim areas of the Russian Empire, especially from the Caucasus region, they were placed into these barracks in the Red Tower.
As part of the Russian military, those soldiers had to be fed as well. So most of the food was imported from other parts of the Russian Empire, but they also had a bakery here. And this is the flour mill and the bakery itself. And interestingly, it was still working in the 1990s, and as the story goes, it was still using some of the machinery that was installed by the Russians in the 1830s. And apart from the military importance of these areas, today there is a different use of all this. There is a Polish military presence in this fortress and in other fortresses, but today these landscapes are beautiful recreational parks. It's just great to be here. It's great to walk here. It's great to enjoy nature in peace. fortress is a symbol of Polish history in many ways, not just the military history aspects are interesting, but also the fact is that today in the fortress there's a socialist housing area, so there's good Polish people who live here in nice Polish apartments. What could be a more appropriate setting for a communist housing area than a former military fortress? It's pretty damn brilliant how locals have been utilizing the forest landscape. And so what we see now is that decent Polish workers are utilizing the landscape and having little summer homes, little cottages here that to enjoy their summer vacation time in the Modlin fortress.